Welcome to Sleep with Myth. Close your eyes and let the world fade away. Tonight we drift beyond time, where gods dream and stories remember their light. Before sorrow there was perfection. Before tears there was stillness. And before the first star ever fell, the sky had never known its own weight. The heavens were vast and flawless, a mirror of light stretched across eternity. Every spark shimmered without fear, each constellation a silent hymn to harmony. There was no loss, no ache, no longing, only the endless breath of being. But in that stillness, something began to stir. The sky, vast and eternal, began to feel the space between its own stars. The gaps, once peaceful, now pulsed with something unnamed. It was not darkness. It was awareness. What are these hollows within me? The sky asked the silence. The silence did not answer. It only deepened. So the sky turned inward, listening to itself. And in the rhythm of its own expanse, it found an echo, faint, uncertain, yet alive. The echo said, "You are too full of light to feel it." The sky trembled. "Feel what?" "The ache of being endless," said the echo. And in that moment, the sky understood something for which it had no name, the quiet burden of eternity. For eons it tried to ignore it. It spread its stars wider, filled itself with brilliance, poured light into every corner of its own vastness. But the ache only grew stronger, because light, when trapped without rest, begins to yearn for shadow. The sky whispered, "Why do I shine, if I do not know what it means to fall?" And from somewhere beyond the edge of its own body, a soft voice replied, not from the earth below, but from the deep of the dark itself. "You shine," said the voice, "so that one day you may learn to weep." The sky turned its gaze toward that voice, but saw nothing, only the void, still, patient, watching. "I am not made to weep," said the sky. "All things that live must learn to let go," the void answered. "Even gods." The sky hesitated. "I am not a god." "Then you are something lonelier," said the void. The stars trembled, their light flickering as if listening. And for the first time since creation began, the sky felt something heavy press against it. Not storm, not shadow, but feeling. It spread slowly, like a bruise of gold beneath the blue. The sky whispered, "What is this?" And the voice answered, "It is the beginning of sorrow." The sky tried to breathe, but eternity has no breath. So instead, it shimmered, and in that trembling, something unseen broke free. A single glimmer detached from its body, drifting downward, soft and silent. It fell, cutting through space, leaving a trail of light behind. The sky gasped, "What have I done?" The void smiled, "You have begun." When that glimmer touched the endless black below, it flared bright, pure, and for an instant, alive. It was the first falling star. The sky watched it fade and felt something it had never felt before, the ache of absence. "I lost a part of myself," it whispered. The void replied gently, "You found a part you did not know you had." And so, as silence reclaimed the heavens, the sky continued to tremble, not from fear, but from awakening. One by one, the stars began to stir, as though listening to their creator's new rhythm. And in the quiet distance, another light began to fall. The sky did not stop it. It only watched and wondered what it meant to lose and to love. The first falling star left a silence behind it, a delicate hollow shaped like wonder. The sky felt that hollow and did not turn away. It leaned into the ache, listening. And in that listening, the ache became a door. "What waits beyond you?" the sky asked the hollow. "A softer light," the hollow answered. "One that does not fear falling." Across the vastness, constellations trembled as if loosening their threads. The sky gathered them close, cradling their brightness the way a tide cradles the moon. "If I let you go," it whispered, "will you return to me?" The stars hummed like distant bells. "We never truly leave. We become your memory." So the sky uncurled its endless hands. A second star slipped free, luminous and gentle, drawing a pale ribbon as it crossed the dark. The ribbon did not fade. It remained, a path of tenderness written across night. Below, the quiet, that old listening depth beneath all things, stirred for the first time. It felt the stars' descent as a breeze through dream, and opened its eyes without opening them at all. "Who touches me?" asked the quiet voice like a lake before dawn. "Part of me," said the sky. "I do not know whether I have lost it or found it." "You have learned to loosen," said the quiet. "Now learn to land." The sky shivered. "How?" "Trust the falling," the quiet replied. "I will hold what you release." So the sky let go again, and again. A small constellation unthreaded itself like a handful of bright seeds, cast upon a field of night. Each one fell with purpose, painting arcs of silver that lingered long after. Their flames were gone. Where they touched the quiet, the dark did not devour them, cradled their heat, cooling it into embers that glowed like sleeping hearts. The quiet did not own them. It only kept their warmth safe. The sky watched with awe. "You are not emptiness." "No," said the quiet. "I am promise." The sky trembled with relief, though relief felt suspiciously like grief. Then, "I may weep," the quiet answered. "Weeping is only the body learning to honor change." And so the sky learned, slowly at first, then with growing courage, it let its brightest points soften, rounding themselves into luminous drops. The drops shimmered at the edge of the sky's vast body, hesitating like children at the mouth of a river. "Will it hurt?" asked one small light. "Yes," the sky said, honest at last. "But on the other side of hurt is meaning." The little light nodded and fell. Others followed, some brave, some afraid, all beautiful. Their descent stitched heaven to depth, above to below, the everlasting to the tender briefness of touch. Thunder did not follow them. Music did, not loud, but intimate, the sound of a harp plucked in a room with one open window. The quiet gathered the fallen and changed nothing about them except their need to burn. Peace replaced urgency. Stillness replaced strain. In that stillness, the fallen found something new. They could listen back. "Sky?" one ember whispered upward. "I can hear your heartbeat." The sky startled. "I have one. You always did," said the quiet. "You only mistook it for silence." The sky's edges softened, blue deepening to indigo. "If I keep weeping, will I empty?" "You will empty of loneliness," said the quiet, "and fill with belonging." The sky thought of the first glimmer, of the ache that followed. It thought of all that remained, rivers of light, maps of memory. "Then let this be my vow," it said. "I will not hoard brightness. I will teach it to travel." At that vow a wonder occurred. The falling changed shape. No longer single threads. The lights descended in veils, delicate curtains of radiance drifting slow enough to be heard. Each veil carried a note, and together they formed a chorale the world had never known it needed. Creatures not yet born would someday call it the aurora of remembering. For now it was simply the sky learning to sing while it wept. The quiet lifted its gaze as much as a depth can lift. "There is a world between us," it said gently. "Would you like to meet it?" "What world?" asked the sky. "The one made when falling learns to arrive," said the quiet. And from the glow of gathered embers, shapes emerged. Not stars, not shadows, but luminous seeds wrapped in night. They rose like lanterns from a sleeping lake, drifted, and settled on distant horizons where edges were beginning to imagine themselves as land. The sky watched, amazed. "They are becoming places. They are becoming stories," the quiet corrected softly. "Places are stories that chose to stay." For the first time, the sky felt gratitude toward gravity. "Thank you," it whispered to the unseen pull, "for teaching me how to bow." The pull did not answer, but the weeping became gentler, steadier, a rhythm one could live by. And far below, the quiet held everything without keeping it, warmed without burning, named nothing, and yet remembered all. That night ended with no sunrise, only a widening of calm. The sky rested, not empty, but clear. The quiet breathed, not loud, but full. Between them, a hush bloomed that tasted like home. The world below had not yet learned to name the beauty that was unfolding. It only listened, as if every falling star was a word in a language the earth almost remembered. Each tear that left the sky no longer vanished into silence. They gathered softly, shimmering, weaving through the void like rivers of molten glass. They curved, coiled, and whispered to each other as they flowed, and the darkness began to glow with moving light. The quiet, the ancient listener beneath all creation, stirred and spoke. "What are you?" "We are what the sky could not keep," said the rivers, their voices trembling with tenderness. "And what do you seek?" asked the quiet. "To return," they said, "to the heart that let us go." The quiet smiled, if darkness can smile. "Then flow freely. All things that fall remember where they began." And so the light obeyed. It did not rush. It wandered like memory, like longing. The rivers of light curved through the cosmic dark, leaving trails like thoughts that refused to fade. Every time a new tear joined them, the river grew wider, more intricate, like a dream finding its voice. Above, the sky felt the weight of its own weeping, yet that weight no longer hurt. It pulsed through every constellation, a slow rhythm like breathing. "They move," whispered the sky. "They live." And the quiet answered, "Yes. In motion they find meaning. In meaning you find yourself." The rivers glowed brighter, and where they flowed, the darkness softened. What had once been void now shimmered like a velvet sea touched by dawn. Each light carried a story, of joy, of loss, of the simple wonder of falling and still shining. "You have turned sorrow into song," said the quiet, "and that song is called time." The sky listened. "Time." "Yes," the quiet murmured. "Time is light learning how to move." And so the sky watched its tears become ages, its grief become rhythm. It felt its own heartbeat echo across the endless black, steady, ancient, alive. Where the rivers met, they intertwined and began to spiral upward. Their motion birthed clouds, soft veils of memory, white against the deep blue. And from the breath of those clouds, the first wind was born. The wind rose slowly, whispering through both sky and quiet, "I am what happens when sorrow learns to dance." The sky smiled through its still glimmering tears. "Then carry them," it said. "Carry my light wherever it is needed." And the wind obeyed. It gathered the softest of the fallen drops, lifted them gently, and sent them rising back toward the stars. They climbed not as fire, but as grace, luminous, weightless, forgiving. The sky felt their return and wept again, but this time not from loss, from recognition. The cycle had begun. What fell would rise, what broke would sing. The quiet, now glowing faintly with borrowed starlight, whispered, "You have learned the oldest truth. Nothing is ever lost. It only changes direction." The rivers shimmered one final time that night, their light bending through the vastness like a melody finding its last note. The sky, vast and trembling, whispered into the silence, "If this is what it means to weep, then I will never be still again." And in answer, the stars themselves began to hum, not with sorrow, but with life. The universe listened, and somewhere between the glow of the rivers and the hush of the dark, the first dream of rebirth began. When the sky had wept for countless ages, the rivers of light began to rest. Where they met the edge of the quiet, something new appeared, a surface that shimmered but did not vanish. It was neither water nor shadow. It was the first mirror. The quiet spoke softly. "You have cried so long. The world now remembers how to see." The sky leaned closer. "What is this?" "This," said the quiet, "is reflection, the child of sorrow and stillness." The sky gazed into it and saw something it had never seen before itself. Every constellation, every curve of light, every absence between stars was returned to it in delicate balance. For the first time, the sky knew what it looked like, and for the first time it felt humbled. "I am beautiful," whispered the sky, "but also incomplete." "All beauty is incomplete," said the quiet. "That is how it breathes." The sky lingered, staring deeper into its reflection. Yet within the gleam of its own face, it saw movement, faint ripples forming patterns. Something inside the mirror was trying to rise. "What is that?" the sky asked. That, the quiet said, is what happens when your tears begin to dream. From the surface, the ripples shaped themselves into soft silhouettes of light, figures that flickered like memories learning to walk. They were neither stars nor shadows, but something between. Each one looked up toward the heavens with eyes made of radiance and silence. "Do they see me?" asked the sky. "They remember you," the quiet answered. The sky watched as these beings began to move, to touch, to reach, to form gestures of curiosity. Where their hands met, sparks bloomed. Where they breathed, color was born. They were the first reflections, the souls of falling stars learning to stand. The sky trembled. "They are alive." "Life," said the quiet, "is what happens when sorrow learns to look back." One of the reflections lifted its face and spoke in a tone made of wind and light. "We are your tears," it said. The sky almost wept again, but now its tears fell not from pain, but from awe. The quiet smiled softly, feeling the weight of creation settle like a heartbeat. "Now you understand," the quiet said. "Grief was never meant to end. It was meant to become." The sky breathed, slow and vast. "Then what becomes of me now?" "You become the witness," said the quiet, "and they, your reflections, will dream the world into being." As the reflections multiplied, their songs rose, weaving color and warmth into the once endless dark. The stars above shimmered in reply, pulsing in rhythm with the newborn voices below. And from their joining, light above, reflection below, came the first true dawn. The sky whispered, "So this is love?" The quiet answered, "No, this is memory remembering itself." And the dawn glowed, soft, infinite, alive. The reflections sang, and the sky listened. Each note carried a fragment of what had been: starlight, sorrow, tenderness, silence. Their songs rippled through the quiet until the dark itself began to remember. From that remembering, an ocean began to form, vast, still and bright beneath the heavens. It shimmered with light that was not its own. This was the sea of memory, born where tears had gathered too long to fade. The sky bent close, its reflection trembling upon the new waters. "What are you?" it asked. The sea replied, its voice deep as eternity. "I am what remains of what you could not hold." The sky felt both pride and ache. "Then you are all that I've lost." "No," said the sea, "I am all that you've loved." The sky fell silent, its constellations dimming with reverence. It looked down, and in every wave it saw moments it had forgotten. The first stars fall. The first tears glow. The first whisper of the quiet. All of it alive again, flowing in slow circles. The sky wept softly. "You remember everything." The sea's waves shimmered. "Memory is how eternity forgives itself." And so began the long communion between sky and sea. When the sky breathed out, the sea shimmered in reply. When the sea sighed, clouds gathered to hold its thoughts. They were different, but not apart, two halves of the same unending reflection. From their conversation, the first rains began to fall, not as sorrow, but as return. Each drop that left the sky found its way home, and the sea received it without question, turning every fall into rhythm, every echo into song. The reflections, those first luminous beings, watched in wonder. "This is the cycle," one said, "the endless heartbeat of above and below." The quiet, older than both, nodded gently. "This is balance, the breath of the divine." As the rain fell and rose, the boundary between sky and sea blurred. The light that had once fallen now rose as mist, and what had once been grief now glowed with serenity. The sky whispered, "So this is peace." The quiet replied, "Not peace, continuation." In that moment, the sky saw itself not as eternal, but as alive. It realized that even the stars would one day fade, and in their fading they would return to the sea, not as loss but as promise. And the sea, vast and patient, smiled with every wave. "Do not fear your end," it said, "for even the last light becomes reflection." The sky's voice softened. "And what will become of you, my sea?" "I will dream," said the sea, "and from my dreams, new worlds will rise." The sky shimmered in silence, unable to speak. For the first time, eternity felt small enough to hold, and in that stillness, creation became infinite again. The rain continued, gentle, golden, eternal. Every drop that fell carried a memory, and every wave that rose carried forgiveness. Above and below, two mirrors sang softly to each other, their voices shaping the endless lullaby that would one day cradle worlds. The night had lasted an eternity, yet it had never been dark. For within that night the sky had learned to cry, the sea had learned to remember, and the quiet had learned to speak. Now, something new began to stir. Not sorrow, not silence, but awakening. The reflections that once sang beneath the heavens grew brighter, their songs weaving into harmony with the sky's heartbeat. From their chorus, the first dawn was born, soft, patient, golden. The sky whispered, "What is this glow?" The quiet replied, "It is your own tears rising as light." The sea trembled beneath that rising radiance. "I feel warmth again," it said, "but it is different now, gentle, not burning." "That is love," murmured the quiet. The sky's voice quivered. "Love, yes," said the quiet. "It is sorrow when it chooses to stay." And so, the first sunrise unfolded, not a sudden blaze, but a slow remembering. The sea glowed with golden ripples. The sky deepened into blue. Every reflection became a spark of life. Souls of fallen stars awakening in new forms. Some became wind, carrying whispers between heaven and ocean. Some became birds, born of light and echo. Others became the unseen pulse of existence, the rhythm that would one day be called time. The sky watched in wonder. "They are beautiful. They are you," said the sea. "Every one of them." The sky grew quiet. "Then am I everywhere?" The quiet smiled. "You always were." As dawn spread, the stars did not vanish. They simply softened, resting behind the light. The sky felt no loss this time. Instead, it breathed long, slow, and full. Every breath was an act of creation. The sea rose and fell with the rhythm of that breath. And from the edge where they met, Land began to form. Tiny, trembling shapes of earth held between wave and wind. The reflections, now awakened, knelt upon those shores. They touched the sand, the first hands to hold the world, and whispered blessings shaped like beginnings. The sky watched them with tears of gold. Will they remember me? The quiet answered gently, in every sunset. And will they forget? In every storm, said the quiet. But forgetting is how remembering begins again. The sea laughed, soft as tide. So even absence is part of the song. And the sky smiled, radiant and endless. Yes, every fall, every rise, every silence, it all belongs. Then, as the new sun climbed higher, the sky turned to the sea one last time. What now? Now, said the sea, you rest. Let them dream the world for you. The sky exhaled, its breath scattering into colors. Crimson, gold, violet, silver. It painted the first morning, and the reflections lifted their faces to it, feeling warmth for the very first time. The quiet whispered a final truth. The weeping was never sorrow. It was the world learning how to feel. And so, the dawn became memory, and memory became song. The stars above hummed in silence. The waves below shimmered in reply, and between them, life began to move, endlessly, gently, beautifully. Thus ended the first reign of stars, and thus began everything that would ever remember light.